A process will soon begin in Germany, which will demonstrate what an international mechanism is to prosecute crimes and violations of human rights in Belarus. Before the case falls on the prosecutor's table, lawyers cannot speak in public, but they can give professional comments, as is now known. In fact, it was not Germany that came up with the initiative for international persecution. In Germany, as in other countries, pro-Lukashenko's and pro-Putin's logic is quite strong as a rule. These are the same people. The project team decided to through the courts faster and more reliable than political lobbying and compromise. The idea that the Lukashenko regime is terror came after the dispersal of the rallies on September 27, 2020. Then it became obvious that Lukashenko chose the path of forceful intimidation of the people. During the discussion of the Belarusian diasporas, a working group was formed. The diaspora of Germany turned out to be very active. We found outs for lawyers, studied the ways of recognizing the organization of Belarus involved in the persecution of people as terrorist, and a project was made on the basis of German law and the common position of the EU 2,001,931 CFSP. This is the name of the document. In practice, the recognition of the actions of the security forces as terror, and the persons involved in the terror led by Lukashenko as a terrorist organization is an effective tool for eliminating the regime. A tool that includes the ability to implement almost all projects' pressure on the regime. Already from the moment the process opens, the question of whether the regime will be overthrown is removed from the agenda and turns into a discussion of the optimal application of measures, and from the moment the Lukashenko regime is included in the lists of terrorist organizations, the opposition actually gains full control over the economy and politics of Belarus. On a personal level, for those who are still working on the regime, there is a question about their fate. Whether to continue aiding, if the authorities in Belarus captured by a terrorist group by security forces. They're not for exile in the fact of participation in the VNS of a crime under Article 357 of the Criminal Code of Belarus, as people are already negotiating with the opposition, who from the Oman Company has already nay over to the side of the people. What will happen to everyone personally if tomorrow Thief 1 suddenly leaves the country? And he has the opportunity to fly wherever he can before the verdict, or afterwards to The Hague. Let's remember Ceausescu, Honecker, or Yanukovych. They suddenly disappeared even for themselves. At this moment it will be too late to over to the side of the people. Since Belarus has not signed any international agreements, neither the reality nor the legal assessment of events changes. The decision of the court and the European Parliament will be binding in Europe, and the Belarusian economy is very dependent on its partners. Not only large enterprises are dependent on supplies from Europe, but even the operation of turnstiles in the metro, validators in buses, cell phones and bank cards are completely dependent on the European Union. This is not the level of pressure the regime can handle. Consideration of the issue is inevitable. The judicial system in Europe does not depend on political or other influences and is based on facts. Since the Lukashenko regime tried to fulfill almost all the elements of the crime under the Articles of Terrorism and Crimes Against Humanity, with the exception of those related to nuclear weapons, until the nuclear power plant exploded with a cracked reactor vessel, the verdict is inevitable. The evidence base is already in the possession of the lawyers. The jurisdiction is established. There are no legal obstacles. Supporting mass torture and terror for any politician in modern Europe means political suicide. And there are almost no open supporters of Lukashenko. There will be fewer and fewer secret ones. And if there are those willing to interfere with the process, they will not be able to stop it. Any person who has suffered from terror in Belarus at any time and in any form can contact the volunteers of the Our Home Initiative. The most demonstrable and essential feature of terror is physical violence.